Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me for our training on baby chat. Today, I will be talking to you about some 10 strategies that you can use at home when supporting your infants and toddler babies in developing their language and speech. Why language? Language, because it is the foundation for all of our social interactions, whether we're going to the store, going to the move, going to work. We need language to be able to communicate with others, to get our point across, and to be able to get our own needs and wants met. Language is also in children in order to ease frustration. When children don't have the words to say what they want or to express what they might need, they tend to get frustrated. Infant babies tend to cry because they don't have any words to communicate with us. So that's why it's very important for us as adults to make sure supporting their language development at home and outside of the home. So early language support has a few techniques that you all can use at home to help support early language development with your own child. Those techniques are adult talk, communication support, communication extension, back and forth exchanges, and language modeling. And in the next few slides, I'll delve to those areas a little bit further. So talk. Adult talk is describing events that's happening around you and verbally labeling objects. So in describing what you're doing, that's simply as you're doing something in the home with your child, even without your child, you're describing your actions. They're hearing that language and they're making the connections with what you're doing to the vocabulary and the words that you're using. So describe what you're doing. Do it. Simple activities as changing the baby's diaper, preparing a bottle, fixing the bedroom, cleaning the bathroom, all of those things. When your baby's near you, it's very important to describe what you're doing so that they can start to understand, make the connections between those words and those actions. And then you're describing events that are happening around you. So you might be describing of your significant other, you might be describing the events of your child's siblings. Out of them, you might be describing the events of changes that are happening around you. So describing events around you also helps them to make those connections to words. Also, labeling objects allows them to make the connection from object to word. So it's very important to label objects, to label it specifically. You want to say things like, I'd like for you to get the black remote control, as opposed to, can you get me the remote control, or get me the remote? Sometimes in things. Use the full terminology so that they get to know those words a little bit better. They also want to be mindful of using complete sentences. Sometimes when we're talking to babies, we tend to think that because they're babies, we need to talk to them on a very minimal level, and that's not the case. You can use long sentence structure so that they can understand that happens in conversation, along with short sentence structure. You want to be very, very mindful to use complete sentences when talking to your child, to talk to them in baby talk. So communication support is the initiation or words the sound word. Initiating sounds, you as the adult will provide the words that are appropriate for whatever is happening at the moment. Maybe your child is reaching for an object, then you would give the word for that object and label it. Oh, they're reaching for your bottle. If they're making a sound, when you initiating sounds, you would want to make so that they start to see your mouth moving and to start imitating sounds as well. Imitating or repeating sounds, you would imitate and repeat the sounds of your child. So when they're making babbling noises or making ooh and goo goo gaga sounds like da 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 or ba ba da ba 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 ba, you want to repeat those sounds because that's their first attempt at trying to use language. We want them to know that we're listening to them and that their language is important to us too. Communication extension. So for communication extension, you want to provide words for infants' communication. You want to expand and extend on infants' communication. You also want to model turn taking. In providing words for infants communication, it's kind of similar to initiating sounds and words. You're providing the words for infants to use. They don't yet know what things are called, so you're labeling items, and you're using lots of vocabulary and lots of talking around them so they can start to make association. When you're expanding on infants communication, that's kind of similar to imitating their sounds and words. You're providing them with more vocabulary based on what they've said so that they make an association with those words and what they might want or need at that time. Also with communication extension, this is the first time that we start teaching children how to have conversation, and we do that by modeling turn taking. They say something and then you say something back. They say something and you respond. You wait for their response and forth. So that's modeling turn taking for them to understand how conversations happen. In language modeling, there are 4 different categories that fall under this technique and strategy. The first one is support language use. And in order to do that, you would practice back and forth exchanges. That's kind of like modeling turn taking. You would look for kind of like that ping pong conversation. I say something, you respond. I say something, you respond. Whether it's sounds, whether it's babbling, or there are real words, you want to practice going back and forth with your child so that they know they're listening and that they can have a conversation with you. Contingent responding is the adult taking the action of responding immediately when a child says something. So whether you understand what they say or not, that's not very important with this strategy. It's just acknowledging them because they have said something to you, and responding in such a way so that they know that you hear them. And the third component would be asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions so that they're not you're not asking questions that would require yes or no responses or one-word responses. Open-ended questions allows for children to be able to use more of the vocabulary that they're learning they may have to be able to answer a question. So you might want to ask how questions, very simple how questions, and very simple why questions. Those will be steps to asking open-ended questions to your child, allowing them to use vocabulary. The second component is repetition and expansion, and we've talked about repeating and extending the words that your child has said, expanding and repeating the sounds that they might have said. Then you have self and parallel talk. Self-talk looks like you describing your actions and what you're doing in the moment, and parallel talk looks like you describing what your child is in the moment or what people around you are doing in the moment. The fourth and final component is advanced language, and that looks like using a variety of words and using descriptive vocabulary. So if you remember earlier, I talked about the black remote control. You want to use color references. You want to use spatial references. If that black remote control is on top of something, then you want to say that. Can you get me the black remote control that's on top of the table? It might seem like that's a lot of words for a small child, but you try how many actually understand, especially when you start talking to them more and more in that way. We've talked about labeling items, labeling objects, labeling things around them. Start off with labeling your items that you use on a day-to-day basis, whether it's some of their toys, diaper, their pacifier, their bottle, their sippy cup. Start with those familiar things so that they can make easier connections, which leads in the final strategy under advanced language, which is connecting to familiar words and ideas. So you want to, especially when you're using new words with your children, you want to be mindful that have nothing to relate it to. So you want to be mindful of being able to make connections for them. For example, let's say you want to teach them something new like the word barn. You remind them of a time that you went to a petting zoo and they petted animals and that there was a small barn or a small structure that looked like a barn when you went to the petting zoo. That would make that connection that, oh yeah, I have seen a barn before. I just didn't know what it was called. So now we're going to take a minute to watch this short 1-minute video clip, and I call it a day at the salon. In this video clip, you will see a mother and daughter at home having a conversation about different things. When we come back, we'll talk about those different things. I don't want to point them out to you just yet. We'll talk about those different things that we saw, and it's going to be a lot of things that I've mentioned already. So let's get on with the video.
Hey, girl. And then I told him, you crazy? Girl, he tripping, right? Crazy. And you believe he tried to ask me to get up first to get your breakfast? Girl, he crazy. And girl, guess what? I found some SeaWorld tickets for free for military. Girl, we're gonna have to go. Yeah, we're gonna have to go. Yeah, girl, they got water, they got animals. Girl, yes. I'm excited, girl. Yes, he did, girl. Let's go. Girl, I fell out. Couldn't believe it. Girl, I'm trying.
So in that video, you saw mom and daughter having a conversation. I wanted to show you a video of not a teacher, not an educator, not a speech therapist, not a developmental therapist, but a regular mom and a regular daughter at home interacting with each other. In this video clip, you would have noticed where back and forth exchanges, contingent responding. The child did a lot of imitating and repeating, but that's why it's very important for you all to use a lot of language, because they repeat what they hear. And the more and more language you use with them, the more and more vocabulary they attain, and the more and more you support their language development and growth. So the back and forth exchanges, there was contingent responding, there was repetition, there was extension. The baby is one that even asked the open-ended question, and then what happened? So those are the kind of questions that you too want mindful to ask your children in creating those open-ended paths for them to be able to use more vocabulary. So I want to thank you all for joining me today for our workshop on baby Chit strategy that I was able to provide for you will help you with working with your infant and toddler at home and supporting their language development. If you'd like to see some of the fun activities and tips and strategies that I post, you can follow me on Instagram at the Nugget Professor. See you soon. Thank you.